StrayAllDay.com. Tuned in to the show where you learn the discipline to show up day after day to do the work, the confidence to put yourself out there boldly and authentically, and the mental toughness to continue showing up, doing the work, putting yourself out there even when the success you have expected to achieve has yet to be achieved. And on top of all this, you get a huge dose of personal initiative, which is the go-getter energy that moves any one of us, including yourself, to go and make things happen instead of waiting for things to happen. Then we put all this together into one bundle, one package, one philosophy, one framework, one approach, one lifestyle, one book, one masterclass. There's actually more than one book, and there's about 2,000 masterclasses that is called Work on Your Game. My name is Dre Baldwin, also known as Dre All Day, and welcome to the show. And today's topic is how to work with what you have when you don't have a lot. Working with what you've got when what you've got is not a lot. This is a topic that, actually, before I get to that more introduction to the topic, let me let you all know that I do have a texting line where anything that you hear on this show, if you have maybe a follow-up question, you probably won't have a follow-up question because I answer this stuff in detail, and I always refer you to other masterclasses that give you more enrichment on anything that I might mention in my points. So make sure you're listening to the ones that I'm referring to as well as this one. And the links to those will be down in the description of this episode. But if you have anything that I say that really resonates with you, really lands with you, send me a text message and let me know. The number is 305-384-6894. Once again, the number 305-384-6894. Now, this topic here is really about resourcefulness. When you don't have everything at your disposal, meaning there are things out there that you know you could have, but you don't have them, but you still need to get things done. There are still things that you have on your list that you want to get done and you maybe even need to get done. So this whole mentality of resourcefulness, it's a skill, but it's much more of a mindset, because when you have a mindset of being resourceful, the skills will find you. And this is just the way that it works in life. The whole principle is being, then doing, then having. When you are being in the mentality of anything in life, the doing parts will flow from the being. All right, the mentality does not flow from the action. The actions flow from the mentality. So you get the mentality in the right space first, then the actions come behind it. That's why I tell everyone that the first book of mine you should be reading is The Mirror of Motivation, the self-guide, the self-discipline, because that is the foundation. That's the first step in this whole process. Discipline, then the confidence, then the mental toughness, then the personal initiative. So that's why we need to talk about this here today, how to work with what you've got when you don't have much, because I hear from people all the time who are telling me, Dre, I want to achieve this thing, X, whatever that thing happens to be. And then the next thing they say, they start talking about all the things they don't have. And they only know about the things they don't have because they see, obviously, other people do have it. Well, I want to be a good athlete, but I don't have a trainer. Or I want to work on my game, but I don't have access to a gym, and it's wintertime where I'm at and it's too cold outside for me to practice. I want to draw more people to my business, but I don't have a big marketing and advertising budget, so I can't get a whole bunch of people to come to my website and come into the top end of my funnel. What am I supposed to do in those situations? So today, what we're going to talk about is exactly that. The mentality that goes behind the fact that you may not have a lot, but how you can take advantage of what you do have. And again, this is much more mentality than it is an action. Number one, topic once again, how to work with what you got when you don't have a lot. Number one, be decisive and move quickly. Since you don't have a ton to work with, you don't have all the resources, that can be an advantage. And you need to start looking at it right now as an advantage. The advantage is you do not have the paradox of choice to deal with. The paradox of choice is the situation of having so many options that you now have a new problem. You have a new problem with trying to decide which one of the options you're going to actually use. But when you don't have many resources, you don't have that problem because you don't have options to choose from. You only have a few things that you could possibly do, maybe only one thing you can do. So you don't have to spend a lot of time deciding where to begin because you ain't got no choice. Many people move slowly in life, or they move too late in life, not because they don't know what to do or not because they have some problem with no intellectual functionality. They move slowly because they have too many options. They got to decide, I could do this, I could do this, I could do that. And the time that they spend trying to decide what to do, opportunity is passing them by. Opportunity in the form of time, the most valuable investment that you have, that we talked about in episode 609. Some mornings, for example, before I start shaving or going to take a walk, I take a minute or two of time trying to decide what podcast or maybe what new audiobook I'm going to start listening to because I got so many to choose from. I got so many audiobooks in the library. I got so many podcasts that I like to listen to. I got to decide which one to choose from, and I invest a little bit of time trying to decide. That is the paradox of choice. And some people have a much bigger paradox and much more serious areas of their lives. But if I only had, let's say, one show that I'm subscribed to, or only got one book that I'm listening to, or one YouTube channel that I'm watching, I would need a lot less time to make a decision. As a matter of fact, I don't have to make a decision at all as far as which goes. I just got to make a decision to do the thing, and then I got to work with whatever I got. So you right now, if you find yourself not having as many resources as other people, when you don't have much, you can be very decisive in getting to the action. You can be very decisive in getting started. You know why? Because you don't have to decide, all right, where do I start? What do I do first? Which one am I going to use? You don't have to decide which car you're going to drive. You only got one car. Right now, if you got 2 cars, 3, 10 cars, you might decide every day, which one of these I want to pull out of the garage. But if you only got 1 car sitting out there, all right, you ain't got no choice. Hopefully you can drive that one. All right. When you don't have much, be decisive in getting to it. Don't sit around worrying or complaining or bitching or lamenting the fact that you don't have as much as other people. What other people have is not your business. We did a whole episode on this very topic of minding your business, episode 1288, how to mind your business in life. It is not your business what other people have compared to you. It is not your business what other people are doing. It's not your business what they're saying. It's not your business what they're thinking. You don't know what they're thinking anyway. It's not your business to even think about what they're thinking. Your business is anything that has to do with you reaching your definite aims in life. And it usually has very little to do with what anybody else has going on. I don't care who that anybody else is, unless it's somebody who's directly involved in what you're doing. And then those people, you should care what they have going on. But everybody else, that ain't your business. When I first started playing sports, or basketball in particular, I didn't have a ton of options. I didn't have an indoor gym to practice in. I didn't have access to one to use. I did not have a trainer. I didn't have anyone who was taking me under their wing and teaching me the game. So the only way that I knew in my 14-year-old brain at that time was to take my basketball, that I did have, and go to the local playground. I had access to that, and practice on the outdoor courts. That was the only option that I had. So if it was a little bit drizzly that day and the courts were the asphalt was a little bit slippery, well, it was either go practice on the slippery asphalt. In those days, I would just work on my outside shot, or not go outside at all. If it was too cold, then it was, you can't practice basketball. That's the situation. If nobody else was out there with me, it didn't matter because I didn't have anybody out there with me anyway. So I didn't have many other options. I only had one thing that I could do. So I said, you know what, let me just be decisive. I didn't say that to myself, but I was decisive and let me just go do that one thing. What else am I going to do? There was no paradox of choice that I had in that situation. When I wanted to become a professional many years later, almost 10 years later, I didn't know a whole lot of ways to make it happen. I didn't see many different options. These days, maybe you see multiple options. Maybe, actually a lot of players think that maybe they reach out to someone who has already gotten on playing pro and they just talk to them or ask them something or send them a video or some highlights or something like that they can just get a job that way. I never saw that as an option. That never actually worked for me. I never tried it, and it never worked for me as a result. And I get a lot of players reaching out to me, trying to use me as the way to go and do that. I have never been able to do it for anyone. I've never even tried. And anyone who's ever come to me with that, I told them, listen, if it was that easy, all right, people like me wouldn't even need to exist to be talking about all the steps that need to be taken. So when I wanted to play pro, here's what I realized. I saw a straight line process. The first step, I need to get some good game film. So I went to an exposure camp, got the game film. The next step, I need to get an agent who can help market and promote me. So I started talking myself up to agents so I can get me an agent. The next step is, push this agent and hope that this agent can actually get me an opportunity. The agent was able to do that. Then when I got the opportunity, get on that court and ball out, do your thing, so that then I won't need all those steps to fall in place. I won't need all of those dominoes to fall the same way. The next time, it'll be a little bit easier. That's the exact process that I followed because I saw no other opportunities or no other options, no other ways of making it happen. So when you only have one way of making it happen, you should be getting to it right now. You should already have started. You shouldn't even be sitting around waiting for somebody to tell you this. You should already be doing it when you do not have many options. Point number 2. The topic, once again, is how to work with what you got when you don't have a lot. Number 2, turn your excuses into reasons. This is another part of the mentality of not having many resources. Do not let the fact that you are short on resources be the reason why you lose. Instead, make it more of the reason why you win. And I mean this in a couple different ways. One way can be in the motivational / inspirational way. So for example, you take some athlete who doesn't have a trainer, doesn't have an indoor gym. Their parents really would rather them go to school than play sports or chase that pipe dream of being an athlete. But they decide they want to go after it anyway. And despite the fact they don't have all those resources, they use that fact as something to motivate and inspire them and say, well, forget all these people who are against me and nobody's helping me out and I don't have the right circumstances. I'm going to make it anyway. They use that as to light a fire in their belly and to keep them going, keep them working out, waking up early, going to bed late, and doing their thing to work on their game. I do mean it in that way, but I also mean it in a more practical, logical thinking way, more rational way, in that the fact that you don't have a whole lot of resources can be the very reason that you win, because as we just talked about in point number 1, you don't have that paradox of choice. So you waste very little time in contemplation. You waste very little time in trying to make a decision, and you can just get straight to what you have to do. Since you don't have alternatives, there is no space or time needed in your situation to second guess yourself the way everyone else does. See, a lot of people get to second guess themselves about the decisions that they make because they could have made a different decision. But if you only have one option, you don't have to make a decision. Your only decision is whether to get started or not. But once you decide to get started, you don't have 3 different things you could have did, so there's no second guessing. There's no half-assing with choosing option A, because there is no option B and there is no option C. Now, people who have options A, B, C, D, and E, they choose option D. Now, in the back of their mind, they could be thinking the entire time, like, damn, what if I went with option B or E or C or A? You don't have that problem. You have a clear head, because what else are you going to do? You are basically putting yourself in, as Robert Greene describes it in the 33 Strategies of War, the death ground situation. Your back is to the wall. You have everything to gain and you have absolutely nothing to lose. You only have one option from the beginning. So if this one option doesn't work out, you don't lose anything because you had nothing to begin with. So you're going to give everything you can with the one option that you have, because this is the only way that you can make it work, is by using that option, that one option that is available to you. A good example of this would be someone like Barack Obama, former president of the United States. When he was making his decision, keyword, to run for president back in 2007, then he ended up becoming the president, or 2007 when he decided to run. He won the election in 2008, actually got inaugurated in 2009. He was going up against, he saw the looming and expected, the favorite to win the Democratic nomination was one Hillary Clinton. Now, Hillary Clinton had a governmental background. Obviously, she had been the first lady, married to someone who had been president, and Bill Clinton. She had a ton of political experience. She had built up her resume and her cachet within the Democratic Party and just in politics, period. Everybody knew her name. Everybody was excited, like, damn, this is going to be the first woman to become president. And she was at the head of the Democratic Party. And Barack Obama was like, all right, if I'm going to run for president, I'm going to have to beat her. She's the incumbent. Not really the incumbent. She hadn't been it yet. But everyone was saying, all right, it's probably going to be Hillary. And Obama decided to run anyway. And did he have the resources of Hillary Clinton? He absolutely did not. Did he have the experience of Hillary Clinton? No. Did he have the political chops of Hillary Clinton? At the time, no. He didn't have any of those things. Hillary had every advantage over him. And Obama used the only advantages that he had because he didn't have much. His advantage was, first of all, what could have been an excuse was he had very little experience. Could have been an excuse was that he had not held a high political position before. What also could have been an excuse was he didn't have the name recognition, at least politically, that Hillary Clinton did. Of course, people knew who he was, but he didn't have that strong name. He didn't have the relationships built up over decades like Hillary Clinton did. All of those things were reasons. If someone was trying to advise Obama to not waste his resources going for that run, they could have told him, these are all the reasons why you shouldn't do it. You don't have as much experience politically. You don't have the name that she has. You don't have the allies that she has. You don't have all the momentum going in your direction the way that she does. Why should you do any of those things? What Obama did was take those same reasons to fail, or someone could have said excuses had he failed, and he said, you know what, I'm going to use these exact things as reasons to win. I don't have as much experience as Hillary Clinton. Okay, so you know what? My presidential run is going to be represented by one of the main key phrases of his whole campaign was what? Change. This is all about change. And he didn't say what kind of change. He just said change. And it was open to interpretation. And one of those changes that we can interpret was, all right, first of all, I'm going to be the first person of color to hold the position of president if I win. And I'm going to be someone who doesn't have a ton of political experience, and I'm going to prove that that can be done that way. And the guy who came after Obama, I think he took it even further, funny enough. But the whole thing is this. Obama took those things that could have been used against him or could have been used as reasons to do nothing, and he used them as reasons to go forward. That's what I'm telling you to do here. And another one of his campaign slogans, key phrases was, yes, we can. Yes, we can what? He didn't fill it in. He left it open-ended for you to interpret it whatever way that you want it. One way was, yes, we can become the Democratic nominee and the president overall, even though we don't have a ton of experience. Yes, we can elect a black man to be president in the United States. He used all of these quote-unquote excuses and turned them into reasons. You can do the exact same thing. And again, this is much more of a mentality. Once you decide on the mentality, and you've implemented the mentality, you really are in on this, and you're really going to do it this way, understand what happens next. Then you start coming up with all the ideas. I guarantee you, Barack Obama decided, you know what? I'm going to go up against Hillary despite all of these odds that are stacked up against me. And after he made that decision, that's when the concept of, you know what, let's build our whole campaign around change and build it around, yes, we can, and build it around the fact that I don't have a lot of political experience. We're not going to try to cover it up and act like I do when I don't. We're going to use that. We're going to turn it into a feature instead of it being a bug of my campaign. And after he had made the decision, he and his team made the decision that this is what we're going to do, the mentality first, being first, then the doing came to him after. I guarantee you it happened that way. I don't know Barack Obama, but if you ever meet him, you can ask him that question. I guarantee you he will confirm it. Why? Because this formula, these principles work the same way no matter who you are and no matter what you are doing. Point number 3. The topic, once again, is how to make the most of what you got when you don't have a lot. Number 3, find an advantage and squeeze all the juice out of it. This is exactly what I was just talking about in the tail end of point number 2. Exactly what Barack Obama did when things looked like, again, at the beginning, was not a good idea for him to try to run against Hillary, but he took the little advantage that he could figure out and he squeezed all the juice out of it. What was his little advantage? I am not the normal politician. I haven't been in politics forever. I'm coming with a fresh perspective. I'm not coming from years of hardening, being in government and being in DC politics. I'm going to do it a little bit different way. There's a change, and yes, we can do this. I know a lot of y'all are asking, can we do this? And he said, yes, we can. Before you even asked the question, he was already answering it. He squeezed all the juice out of that little advantage that he had. Now, again, you may only have one advantage. Maybe you only got one thing that you can make work for you. You only got one little tool while everybody else has a full toolbox. They got the whole damn hardware store accessible to them. You only got one tool. Listen, since you only have one, instead of bitching and whining about the fact that they have more tools than you, here's what you should do. Focus on yourself, mind your business, and master the one tool that you do have and use that tool better than anybody else does. And then just stay in your lane and use that tool. That's all you got to do. Don't try to get into a lane of using a tool that you have never used before, that you don't have access to. Stay in the lane of doing the thing that you do best and be the best at doing that one thing. Why is it that many articles and books and stories and people talk about it all the time, many athletes, professional athletes and rappers in the entertainment field come from impoverished backgrounds and come from the hood and come from areas where they don't have both parents, or they may not have strong family units, or it didn't really seem like the odds were stacked up for them to really become successful, but they become successful anyway? Why do such a large percentage of people who reach success in those areas come from that type of background? I think one reason is, and this is not any type of empirical research that was done, but I'm saying that one reason is that many of those people didn't see many other options. Now, did they have other options? Maybe. Are we starting to see more options for people coming from such backgrounds? Yes, we are. But I believe that many of those people growing up looked around and didn't see many options. They saw people in the streets. They saw people doing things that would eventually get them killed or incarcerated. And then they saw the few legal ways of making it happen would be, as Notorious B.I.G. famously said in 1993, either you're slinging crack rock or you got a wicked jump shot. And he himself was a rapper, so he didn't mention rapping. But those are basically the 3 ways out. One of those is illegal. The other 2, having a good jump shot and being a musician, were legal, and you can make a lot of money. He did it that way. And I think a lot of people coming up in those environments see that as the ways that they can make it. Now, there is an upside and a downside to that. The downside is you get too many people, what's the word I'm looking for there? Too many people, the word is escaping me, but too many people, probability-wise, let's say, thinking that that's the way that they can do it. That, all right, I'm going to become a professional athlete, I'm going to become a rapper, and many of them do not make it, but there are many who do. Because maybe that's all that they see. Therefore, since that's the only tool that they have, they just go hard on that tool. They put 100% of their time, money, attention, energy, focus into that one option that they see for themselves, and therefore they're able to make it happen. Whereas someone who has many options, even though they may have had just as much talent and just as much opportunity, since they have so many other options, their focus is divided, their attention is divided, their time is divided, and therefore they don't become as good. They don't maximize their talents the same way. They don't squeeze all the juice out of each orange because you only got 2 hands. What if you got 10 oranges? But what if one person only has 1 orange? They're going to squeeze every drop out of it because they're using both hands to squeeze everything they can out of that 1 orange because that's the only way they can get a drink of juice. You follow what I'm saying there? You can understand that metaphor. I don't think I extended it too far there. They may have not seen many options, so they made the most of what they did see with their minds undivided because they didn't have a whole bunch of choices like other people. And this is the very essence of what I'm talking about here. Maximizing the opportunity that you do have, even if it's just one opportunity, singular, and you're looking around, you see other people with multiple opportunities, plural. All right, mind your business. What they have ain't your business. If you're looking around at what other people have and then feeling bad because you're comparing what you have to what they have, all right, you are violating a principle here. You're violating the principle, the inside out principle, which is you need to be focusing inward on what you're doing so that you can get the most out of you. Then you will draw the attention from everybody on the outside. If you're paying attention to externalities, you are not focusing on number one. And number one is and will always be you. Mind your business. Recap today's class, which is how to work with what you got when you don't have a lot. This is about a mentality of resourcefulness. When you don't have everything, but you can still get everything done. This is a mentality first, and this is skill second. Number one, be decisive and move quickly. You don't have a ton to work with, so you don't have the paradox of choice. So there's no reason why you should spend a whole lot of time in analysis because what are you analyzing? You only got one option. Just go ahead and work with that one option. Make it work, figure it out along the way, but you ain't got nothing else to do anyway. What are you gonna do? Just like Smokey told Craig on Friday, it's Friday, you ain't got no job and you ain't got shit to do. So you might as well just move on what you got. Number two, turn your excuses to reasons. This is another mental approach. Don't let this be the reason why you lose. Make it more the reason why you win. This is just a change in the way that you think about the situation. The situation hasn't changed at all. Just the way you look at it has changed. And this is one thing that you always have control over in life is the way that you decide to look at a situation. Since you don't have alternatives, you don't need to use your space or your time to second guess yourself like everybody else does. So when Obama was running for president, he didn't really have a bunch of alternatives. He knew he was not as experienced. He knew he didn't have the political clout. He knew that people were looking at him like, that's crazy. You have no chance because first of all, you're black. Second of all, you don't have the political experience and you're going against someone who has a ton of it. Why do you even think you can win? Obama said, okay, I'm not going to try to hide those things. I'm going to actually put those on the front. I'm going to make that the feature of my whole campaign. And lo and behold, we know what happened. He won. Number three, find an advantage and squeeze all the juice out of it. Again, you may only have one advantage. So that means you better squeeze every single drop of juice out of the one orange that you have and stop worrying about how much juice someone else is getting out of the 10 oranges that they have because, listen, they're not going to get all the juice out of each one of them because they have another one that they can pick up when they get done with that one. Why do you think so many people come from impoverished backgrounds and become successful? Is because often they only see one way they can become successful as opposed to someone who comes from a more privileged background. They see 30 ways they can be successful. Thusly, they never really focus on one of them and they never get the most out of any of them. So that is an advantage. Again, this is a mentality. This is not something this is not a mechanical thing. This is a mentality that you need to look at your situation. Okay, I don't have as much as other people. That is a good thing. I'll use that. I can be more decisive. I can be more focused. I can put more time, money, attention, energy, and focus into one thing, one focus, and therefore I will do that one thing better than anybody else. And often that makes all the difference. If you have not yet claimed your free copy of my book, The Mirror of Motivation, go to mirrorofmotivation.com. The link is down below in the description wherever you happen to be consuming this. Again, that's mirrorofmotivation.com. Claim your free copy of the book and send me a text message. Let me know what was the most powerful thing you heard in today's episode. The number 305-384-6894. 305-384-6894. Work on your game. Dre all day.